how ethics and explainability combine to make artificial intelligence trustworthy. I'm Tonya Hall for ZDNet and Tech Republic, and joining me is Dr. Francesca Rossi, IBM AI Ethics Global Leader and Distinguished Research Staff Member. Welcome, Dr. Rossi.
Thanks for having me.
As a global leader in AI for IBM, in what domains are you active?
So basically, I supervise for the company the various activities that, and there are many that IBM has in the field of AI ethics. So we do a lot of things in research, and not just me, of course. So a big team of people, not even reporting to me. It's very big team and very distributed all over the world of people really working on AI with attention to ethical considerations, like working on explainability, working on bias detection, mitigation, and working on value alignment. So, for example, my expertise is mostly about value alignment. And then we do a lot of other things that go beyond research, meaning how do you inject some of these research results, besides publishing in scientific conferences, how do you inject them into our solutions, services, products, so that we can deliver them to our clients? And also, how do you create communities of developers that understand better these issues and understand what it means to develop AI that is trustworthy and in a responsible way? So, for example, how to put together a community through open source initiatives, codes, guidelines, tutorials, various definitions of bias, example of what they do on different training data sets or whatever. So a lot of things. And then besides working within the company, I also do a lot of things external to the company, meaning our partnership. For example, IBM is one of the founding partners of the Partnership on AI that started from 6 companies and now has more than 80 partners, of which only half of companies and the other half are NGOs, academia, civil societies, and many others. We have a partnership with MIT that is about AI, but also has an area on AI ethics and AI and jobs. We have a partnership with the World Economic Forum. I am in Brussels right now because I am a member of the European Commission AI high-level expert group that is designing policies and guidelines for AI ethics in Europe. So we do a lot of things externally, and I'm trying to follow most of them together also with other people.
You talked about this. I want to drill down. You recently wrote about the European Union's push for ethics guidelines for artificial intelligence. Forming the basis for those guidelines are 2 components: trustworthy AI. Describe both of those components.
So, so the idea was to understand how Europe can be a player and also a leader in developing and delivering AI to the world without necessarily having to catch up with China or with US or with the other big players in AI. And so, and the idea of these AI ethical guidelines is that Europe should focus on how to develop and deliver trustworthy AI, meaning AI that people can trust, meaning that this is a way, an enabler for innovation rather than something that slows down innovation, because Europe is historically is a place where innovation and technology is defined by values, by purposes and values. And so the idea is to really understand how innovation can have a value not just per se, but as an innovation for good purposes. And so the AI ethical guidelines start from the European Charter of Fundamental Rights. And then from those, we move to principle and values that we think should be in AI. And then from those principle and values, we move to 10 requirements for trustworthy AI, like transparency, explainability, fairness, and many others. And then we move to try to understand what are technical and non-technical ways to achieve these 10 requirements, and then also ways to assess that some AI has those requirements.
We're seeing more and more implementations of artificial intelligence in the form of robots, smart home IoT, industrial controls, autonomous vehicles, and so on. Are the manufacturers of these devices faced with cost-benefit trade-offs of implementing trustworthy AI?
Well, yeah, one way to see it is like that. Of course, if you spend some time and effort and resources in trying to detect and mitigate bias, for example, of course, you don't spend that time in doing other things. But the point is that if you want to have success and business value in the long run, you will need to deliver AI that is trusted by whoever is impacted by the AI, whoever uses it, because otherwise, if the user of the community impacted by this AI system is not going to trust it, then it's not going to adopt it in the long run.
Ethics in artificial intelligence comes down to writing basic human standards. You mentioned earlier a part of the foundation of where this is coming, but you're talking about justice and morality and embedding that into software code. These standards may vary from culture to culture and market to market. How does the industry decide which standards will be incorporated in trustworthy AI?
So the point is that exactly this, it's very contextual, depending on the task, depending on the culture in which it is embedded. So that's why the only approach to define these values that should be embedded in the technology is a very multidisciplinary, multi-gender, multi-stakeholder approach. Every voice should be heard to understand what values and in what form should be embedded into the AI techniques. So in fact, for example, even this group that the European Commission put together is a very multi-stakeholder group, or even the partnership on AI is very multi-stakeholder. Every voice is there, not just those that produce AI, but also those that deliver AI, those that use AI, and those that are impacted by AI. So everybody should be there, consumer associations, human rights associations, and then social scientists that are more expert than AI people in trying to understand the impact of a technology onto people, onto cultures, on societies.
For robots, Internet of Things, vehicles, etc., what are the challenges in hardening the ethical programming of these devices against cyber threat actors that would turn our AI-powered devices against us?
Well, I mean, one of the challenges that I think that more and more people think that AI should be built to augment our own capabilities. Okay, so humans should be there in the picture somewhere, meaning that this AI system, whether it's a robot or a software system, should help us in doing whatever we do, like a decision support system for a doctor, for example, to help him make better decisions and to help him make sense of the vast amount of data that he would not be able with his brain, no matter how brilliant he is, to digest and to read and to assimilate and compare and so on. And so, so that is the purpose of AI. And so the development and the design of AI should go in that direction. And so if we do that, then of course there are still some challenges. It's not easy to make this AI collaborate and interact seamlessly with human beings. And for example, one of the challenges is, again, this issue of explainability. So we want this AI system to be not a black box, but something that can, yes, make decision or suggest decision to be made by humans, but be able to explain why they are making some suggestions and not others, especially when they make suggestions that are kind of counterintuitive for the human being that is supposed to follow the suggestion, like the doctor or whoever else. And so with these machine learning algorithms that are so successful in many domains, we have AI systems that in some sense are free to define an innovative path to find solutions. And so in this way, they can even find ways to the solution that humans maybe could not think about. But then they are also free to find undesired possible paths. So the challenge there is to try to understand how to harness this freedom, this creativity of AI system to give some boundaries defined, for example, by values and ethical considerations that are relevant for the task.
So Francesca, what accomplishments and additional challenges do you see for ethics in AI in 2019?
Well, to me, again, personally, I'm very involved in these value alignment ideas, trying to understand how to harness the power of AI. But also, it's very important in general as a next breakthrough for AI and also for AI ethics to be able to combine these very successful machine learning data-driven approaches with more symbolic, kind of old-fashioned symbolic AI. And this because if you want AI to be communicated with humans, so we communicate with symbols, with entities, with high-level concepts, while machine learning is, in some sense, is giving us a lot of capabilities in terms of understanding correlations from data. And this is one thing that is very important. We would not be able to do that without the help of these machines, but it's not everything that we want from AI. AI can give us much more, can communicate with us much better, can learn in a much less primitive way, hopefully in the future, and also can understand how to derive not just correlation from data, but also causal information. And that's very, very important because without being able to derive causal information, we would be stuck with the predictions, like what machine learning can do now, and we will not be able to go from prediction to intervention, which is what we need. In order to change the future, we need to understand what we have to do now to change the future, instead of just predicting what the future can be. So these are all challenges that would really make a big step forward in AI, together with the value alignment challenge, but can also bring the big step forward in AI ethics, but also in AI in general, I think.
Well said. Dr. Francesca Rossi, IBM AI Ethics Global Leader and Distinguished Research Staff Member. Thank you so much for your time. If somebody wants to connect with you, maybe they want to find out more about your work or where you'll be, how can they do that?
Oh, they find me on LinkedIn, they find me on Twitter, they can write me by email. I'm just francesca.rossi2, number 2, @ibm.com.
Sounds perfect. Thank you again for your time. And if you guys want to find me,
Tanya.
you can do that right here on ZDNet or Tech Republic, or go to my website, tonyahall.net. I've got links to all my social sites. Thanks for watching.